Movember, day 17. And for today's video, what I want to do is a video on a daily plan for recovery from addictions or trauma. If you are dealing with recovery from developmental trauma or an adult trauma, you might find some of these tools useful. If you're a member of Codependents Anonymous or Adult Children of Alcoholics or Dysfunctional Families Anonymous, you might find it useful. But it is certainly very useful for people that have found themselves crashing into recovery either through discovery, someone else has found out you're an addict and demanding you do something about it, or you have crashed into recovery due to your own inability to continue to manage your life as a result of the powerlessness that you've now identified over your addictions. So what do? How do you know how to get started? And so the first thing I wanted to do was mention this quote. C.S. Lewis wrote, a famous author, wrote, "The moment you wake up each morning, all your wishes and hopes for the day rush at you like wild animals. And the first job each morning consists of shoving it all back in and listening to that inner voice, taking the other point of view, letting the other larger, stronger, quieter life come flowing in." And so for a lot of addicts, we have to absolutely manage the morning. It's a key time. Even the practitioners that are more NLP, like Anthony Robbins, that'll tell you about setting your days, changing your state. This is just some suggestions of what to do. If you're very early in recovery, you're going to have a lot of negative core beliefs, some negative cognitive sort of thinking. So upon waking, and I'll work on that continuum of atheism, agnosticism, and spirituality and religiosity. So upon waking, some sort of daily prayer intention. When I was in detox before I really got God, it was they got you to stand in front of the mirror and say, "My name's Steve, and I'm an addict, and just for today I'm willing not to pick up a drink or a drug." And it was a morning statement of intention, and it was important. These days it might be more the Jesus prayer or the Serenity prayer, third step prayer in AA, third step prayer in NA. God, if it's still in the shower in the morning, I will say, take my will in my life and show me how to live. That is the NA prayer, really simple. So that early statement of intention before you even wake up, setting your compass on a true north of recovery can be just simple and useful. Gratitude lists are common in recovery. To instead of focusing on the half empty cup, focus on the half full. What are you grateful for? And sometimes in early recovery, even in detox, you can be grateful that you've had a warm bed, that there's a meal, a cup of tea, that there's someone to talk to, that you're safe today. Gratitude lists as you get into recovery sometimes get shared around, and you have people that'll send you theirs and you send you yours, and it can be a great way to also see what other people are grateful for. It gives you ideas. When you've spent a lot of time with a real hectic inner critic or a real hectic outer critic, man, you sometimes haven't got a lot of gratitude. It's a really new concept. So getting on someone else's gratitude list can really teach you a few things. Daily readings. It's very common to have daily readings books. I think I got one here from last night's group. Here's one. They sort of look like this. They're smaller books. You can get them on apps now. Mainly people send it to you on your smart devices. But an old-fashioned way, a small book of the reading will be something that's bite-sized chunk, and it sets your day. AA, every 12-step fellowship has a book. This one is Hazelden is a popular publisher. They do them on gender too, and there's good men's ones, women's ones. But these little books can be really useful to do a daily reading. You can read them each calendar day, or in group we just randomly open it and see what God's got for us. So daily readings are good. Short meditations on all reading. I think there's this typo. I'm not going back to start this video. So a short meditation apps are great. I like the Pause app, the John Eldridge Wild at Heart. I use an Abide app, which is a Christian app. I really like the Calm app. The Headspace has got a great app. Great box breathing if you really just like it to focus your breath. There's a lovely app by Mark Divine just on box breathing alone. And you can usually set them for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It depends on how long you've got. The Pause app I like because it really aligns me with the God of my understanding. So you can really play around and find one that works for you and use them at different times in the day to reset. The pause app, most of them will let you put a reminder in to keep you in this new habit. Morning pages, keeping a journal. I got a journal just up there, and the idea of morning pages comes out of The Artist's Way, and is a book on sort of getting your creativity reactivated. But morning pages as a journal can be useful. I had a sponsee teach me to write to God in my journal, dear God and amen at the end. But one of the most popular 12-step tools is doing a step 11, and that might sound too much in the beginning. But I heard a guy share once, and he said, if you can understand step 1, you can do step 11, step 2, step 11, step 3, step 11. It's just aligning you with your concept of the power greater than yourself. Third step will do in the beginning. First step admission will do right at the start. But if you can do 10 minutes of spiritual program reading, it might just be that small reading book of the day or the program text or the Bible or whatever you get inspired by. 10 minutes of prayer and meditation and 10 minutes of journaling about what comes up for you. Great way to set your day. It's just tuning into that power, the creator, God that runs the universe. Or if you're atheist or agnostic, it's tuning you into that higher self, letting that more quiet voice that C.S. Lewis described, giving it space to emerge and come in. So that's just some stuff you can do in the morning. Of course, you might do all of it, and you might do some for different seasons, but it's just some suggestions there. I found certainly the daily statement of intention and daily reading books have been a big part of it, but now I'll probably do the apps in the morning more likely, and then I go walking, step 11 for sure. So I've done The Artist's Way a couple of times, and those three pages on awakening was a really insightful tool. So some things there to get you started. Now, I haven't got it right there, but I've got it in the next slide. But you can also, plenty of 12-step meetings have first breakfast meetings. So a lot of people start their day by jumping up, getting in the shower and heading off to that meeting. So that's another option too, to really tune into a meeting straight away, especially if things are a bit squirrely and you're having trouble. Throughout the day, one of the main suggestions in recovery is using the phone, making contact, doing outreach calls for support. And if you make calls, you will take calls. People will start to ring you because they know that you're committed to recovery, and they really, everyone's looking for someone to ring. Doing this on our own is impossible. That's what, 3 pertinent ideas that you get shared in 12-step fellowships that we can't manage our own life. No other human power really can help us with that God wouldn't if he was sought. So these outreach calls really help us tune in. And in an outreach call, you can check in step 10. I write about step 10 in the next slide, but what happens here is that you can share, how am I going with my self-centeredness, my dishonesty, my fears at the moment, my resentment. So what's going on today? Can I check some of that in with someone? Am I not sure about something? Do I need to check out and get some support around a decision I have to make, some stress that I'm going through? So just not doing life alone. Calling your sponsor. If you're in a 12-step fellowship, they suggest you get a sponsor, that someone that can coach you through the steps, sharing their experience, strength, and hope. And you might have an early recovery, a call to them every day, where you might be even, I know in the HOW program, first 7 questions and the 30 questions help you with defining your bottom lines and then getting the first 3 steps locked down. And so a sponsor call is really useful throughout the day. A 12-step meeting throughout the day, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So you can do a 12-step meeting anywhere around the world on Zoom these days. A lot of guys, will do one at lunchtime. They have their lunch in a meeting. I certainly do that these days now that we've turned to daylight savings again, and the American evening meetings are on at our lunchtime. So I do a few of those in a week. Steps reading. I think that I've always thought if you're in a fellowship, get the book, the big book of that fellowship, and read the steps. Read that book. Read the stories. But read whatever step you're on. And sometimes sponsors will say, "Oh wow, it sounds like you got a defect causing you trouble, or there's self-will there," and you might tend get you to write on step. Have a look at step 6 and 7 for defects, or step 3 or 11 for self-will run riot. So sometimes these calls, someone on a phone call will tell you to read something. All helpful. Talking books, podcasts, while exercising, working, driving. People sometimes say, well, how am I going to fit all this in? Well, if you drive or walk the dog or do a morning walk, man, I do most of my listening to content and outreach calls on a morning walk of about an hour, hour and a half in the morning. It's the best time for me. People that know me or in my life in that sort of circle of outreach calling, they know that that's the best time to get me because I work as a therapist and I'm locked in this office. And you can't get hold of me. So and at night I'm pretty tired and want to spend it with my wife and we watch some TV to wind down. So yeah, podcasts, talking books, you'll hear them in outreach calls, meetings, people suggest stuff, and I love talking books for that reason. Daily exercise is a really good thing to do, some light exercise. Patrick Carnes, we talk about this being affecting the way the brain works, or the way AA talks about it being a disease of our thinking, that we really need to give our brain the best chance to heal. Our reward network and systems and euphoric recall systems and motivational systems are a chance to heal. And so light exercise, good diet, and good rest are three features that just allow the organ to have the best habitat to heal in. So some light exercise, and try and pick something fun. Try and do something with someone else. Long periods of time in my recovery, I remember when I lived in the Blue Mountains, Dave and I, we used to go to the Fairmont. We'd have a sauna. We'd play 7 games of racquetball. We'd do boxing. It was fantastic to do it with someone. Go for morning runs down through the valley, which he still posts on Instagram. And I'm quite jealous living in the city now and missing out on some of that. So find something you can do that helps you with your health and well-being. Because when you're depressed, we want to hibernate. We want to stay in the lounge chair. Don't leave the doona therapy. So that helps us get out. Now, the 4 absolutes is a way to map your day. I've done a video on that already. The 4 absolutes, though, are absolute honesty, no lying to oneself or others, unbending faithfulness in the truth in thought, word, and action. Absolute purity, purity of mind, purity of body, purity of the emotions, purity of heart, sexual purity. Absolute unselfishness, seeking what is right and true in every situation above what I want. And absolute love, loving God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength, and your neighbor as yourself. So it's through the day, that little compass, setting that compass in any situation can just guide us when we're so used to living in an addictive, selfish way, right? Evening, have a bedtime. So many addicts don't have a bedtime. They pass out just in front of the TV and watch another series and another series. Have a bedtime that you go into a morning ritual. It's I suppose a saying these days that you've got to have this sleep hygiene, but we've made that sound pretty complicated. But for addicts, man, I was a speed freak. I didn't go to bed, So in recovery, I had to learn to go to bed. I discovered chamomile tea. I still take valerian sometimes to help me sort of wind down and read something, do a bit of journaling. So having a night routine can be really good for addicts. And I do believe that your day tomorrow starts tonight. I know if I want to stay up and watch YouTube or stay up too late on TV, it makes it hard to get that morning routine happening. So in a way, your day starts in the evening, the night before, and what sort of intention you set there is how you're going to get up and start the day the next day. So have a bedtime, some sort of evening prayer or gratitude list. The meditation at night can be good, especially ones that focus on relaxing the body too and bringing you mindfully into the body. Some sort of enlightened reading can be helpful, or I know I used to do so much recovery reading that I got onto biographies and music biographies just to give my brain a rest, fantasy novels, just to give my brain a rest from reading the stuff that's involved with my work. But I still must say to this day I enjoy some sort of enlightened reading that leaves me going to bed feeling hopeful. The other thing that is a very popular tool in recovery is a step 10 at night, doing a written step 10. Outreaching step 10 stuff's really good. You can do this any time of the day if something's really bothering you. But how did I go? Have I battled with resentment, dishonesty, fear, or self-centeredness today? How did I go with it? And if I can get it on paper and hand it over to a higher power, it sort of takes it out of my head and puts it down. I might serenity prayer it. God grant me serenity, to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. Check it into God before bed. And so, like I said, if we can get this right, it sets our day the next day, because we wake up, back into prayer. Okay, God, I'm back. Thank you for getting me through the night. And so it's a cycle. here. Now, a couple of things I've put in at the end that I'll just click on to. Relapse prevention tools through the day. Sometimes in early recovery, this can happen a lot, and even in long-term recovery, before you can have something come out of the blue. So if you've got developmental trauma of any type or betrayal trauma, I've done a video on this. If you look in this series from 2022 on 13 tips to deal with emotional flashbacks, it's important that we have a series of tools that help us if we get dysregulated and overwhelmed. Tools for objectification. I did that video yesterday. So if you're a sex addict in recovery, it could be really useful to, you might have to activate that tool set just to get through a certain moment. Patrick Carnes, in his book, I've got them looking at it, I won't reach up and get it, but in Facing Addiction or Facing the Shadow, he has a fire drill. It essentially is saying, listen, what are those key slippery grounds for me, and what's my strategy? What's the break glass in case of emergency strategies I have in recovery? Have them written down and activated. And the same with these emergency first aid kit. We really do need to know, in case of emergency, what do I do in recovery? And we need to sort of practice that. We need to talk to our intimates about it. We need to run it by our outreach calls, because it's like, I've worked in quite a few hospitals, and you have to practice protocols for emergencies so you can get out safe yourself and help others get out safe. And I think recovery is like that. We need to have emergency plans that we are well aware of, well versed in, and practice, so when an emergency hits, we know what to do. So that is the video for today. I hope it's useful. It sounds like a lot, but man, if you've got an addiction that's kicking your ass, we need a lot. There's no use taking a knife to a bazooka fight. I've turned that one around. So it's like we sometimes have to take the right tools for the job. And if you've got an addiction, it's a mental health condition. And part of accepting step one is that, yeah, I know, it sucks, right? It sucks. You've now got a mental health condition you've got to deal with. And it's not pretty, but no one's going to do it for us, right? God can and will help if we seek him, but he will not if he doesn't. But we're going to have to take responsibility now for our recovery. That's the Movember thing. Please donate to anyone that you see growing a bad mow or trying to maintain a big one like myself. And on 2 days' time, I got Robert Weiss. If you're a client, if you're hearing this video, got Robert Weiss, Dr. Rob from LA, tuning in to talk about sex addiction, betrayal, trauma, and recovery. And that's a real opportunity for anyone that's clients of the service to just get this intimate audience with one of the world's sort of premier practitioners in this field. So that's enough for me for today. I look forward to doing a video tomorrow. With that, take care.